What's up, GITV? My name is Tim. For years now, airsoft companies have been trying to develop what I would call a multi-purpose airsoft gun. What I mean by that is a gun that can be used in close quarters combat at a field with a very low muzzle velocity limit, and also take that same gun to an outdoor field that has a much higher muzzle velocity limit because the field is much more spread out and the gameplay is much further apart. To some degree, some companies have succeeded. Companies that come to mind are the ICS M4 with the split gearbox design. You can have your outdoor upper gearbox assembly and you can have an indoor upper gearbox assembly that shoots a much lower FPS. You have to take apart the gun and change out the upper gearbox assemblies. Not very difficult to do. Another gun that comes to mind is the Sistema PTW series. You can change the cylinders based on where you're playing. You know, I think like the black cylinder shoots like 330 FPS all the way up to the red cylinder, which shoots about 500 FPS with the 2.0s. And the last gun that comes to mind in recent history is the Echo One Master Series MP5, where Echo One actually gives you the MP5 and they give you a complete gearbox and lower assembly of the MP5 that you can change out to have different muzzle velocities from the same gun. However, there is another solution that I think is probably the best because, number one, it's more universal to different types of guns. You don't have to stick with just an M4 or just an MP5 model. And also, you don't need any extra parts, basically. What I'm talking about here is the SAT VVD, brand new product that you'll be seeing on Airsoft GI. What this is a variable velocity device. It comes with this piston and piston head, VVD, variable velocity piston, VVP I guess it would be, and this tool, specialized tool that is made for it. What this basically is a piston and piston head assembly with a valve in it, okay, and you adjust the valve with the included tool. When you have the valve all the way closed, you have the maximum air compression inside your cylinder and thus utilizing the maximum, you know, potential energy or spring energy in your spring to propel your BB. You open up the valve in stages with the tool, and every time you open up the valve it creates a bigger and bigger air leak inside your cylinder, thus lowering the muzzle velocity of your gun. So all you need to do is install this into your gun and make sure you don't lose the tool, and you basically don't need any other parts. I mean, this thing is small enough that it can fit onto your rig or into your gear bag or anything like that. The piston stays inside the gun, and what you'll basically have is a multi-purpose airsoft gun that you can adjust to accommodate for different fields, FPS levels. Now, this VVD, variable velocity device, has 4 different stages. So you can have maximum potential, and then you can dial it down a little bit more, and a little bit more. Every time you step down a step on the valve, you should be able to lower your muzzle velocity by 30 to 40 FPS. So no matter which field you go to, if you're like me and you have a lot of fields in your area, all with different muzzle velocity limits, you'll be able to customize your gun to optimize its performance and stay within the regulations of that field. Now, to test out this variable velocity device, we have installed a VVD piston inside this XCR. One of the reasons we did that is because it's very simple to get inside the gearbox of an XCR. And we have our tool that is already assembled for the length of the gun. Now you hear this rattling inside here? There are different rod segments for the VVD tool device, so that in case you install this gun in an M16, which has a much longer barrel than the XCR, you will still be able to adjust your VVD. We'll get into the details about this tool later on, though. We have the VVD installed in this XCR, and we're going to chrono it with all the different stages of the VVD. At Airsoft GI, we're always looking to improve your shopping experience. This is why we've added a USPS shipping option for smaller qualified orders. If you're making a small order for a hop bucking, a patch, or a ball bearing, you can select USPS shipping to save about 50% over UPS ground. So, it looks like our variable valve device does work as advertised. There is a clear muzzle velocity difference between the valve being completely closed and the valve being completely open and everything in between. It does seem like there is a little bit to be desired in the way of consistency. Maybe that's something SAT will work on in the future. However, with that being said, I would still consider this to be the most viable option to have a multi-purpose airsoft gun, because it does work like it should, and it's very easy to adjust, which is what I'm going to go over now. Like I mentioned before, I already have my rod segments in my tool adjusted to fit into the XCR's inner barrel. So before I even get started, I'm just going to say that I'm opening myself up to a lot of that's what she said jokes, so just get it all out right now. After you've assembled your tool to a proper length, insert your rod into the inner barrel. Okay, you're going to have to work it past your air nozzle, so look through your hop-up and insert it there. Pretty much once you're inside the air nozzle, the tool will seat itself inside of the slot of the piston head and you'll be able to adjust it. With the valve all the way closed is all the way clockwise, so if you spin the valve all the way clockwise, don't force it, it doesn't take very much force to close the valve completely. Once the valve is all the way closed, you should have maximum potential energy out of your spring. You can slowly open the valve by turning your SAT tool counterclockwise, and again, it doesn't require much force. You can hear and feel a distinct click once the valve is open to position 1. The valve is open to position 2, again with another turn counterclockwise, and the valve is completely open, giving you the least possible potential energy from your spring because it creates the biggest air leak in your piston when you turn the valve completely counterclockwise. So it's very, very easy to adjust. As you've just seen, I've been able to change the gun from 400 FPS to around 215 to 220 or so just with this tool and without disassembling the gun at all. Now with regards to this tool, you do need to know a few things. Each rod segment is about 4 or 5 inches long, and each rod segment has a little slot in it so that you can torque it down. Because the way the tool adjusts, or because the way the valve adjusts is dependent on this tool and spinning it clockwise and counterclockwise, you're going to have to torque down the segments of your tool pretty strongly so that it doesn't twist and not adjust the valve. So basically, the torque to keep each segment on here must be greater than that of the torque required to adjust the valve. Should be pretty simple and self-explanatory. There are a couple of more rod segments in here, like I mentioned, for a longer gun. This is already adjusted for the XCR, but you can adjust the tool's length dependent on the type of gun that you have your variable valve device installed into. I believe the SAT VVD is for sale on ASGI for $99. Check it out at Airsoft GI, or if you live close enough, come by our walk-in store and you can see it in person. I'm Tim from Airsoft GI TV. Thanks for watching.